Phil Walker Harding's card game Sushi Go was released in 2013 through his own Adventureland games, and copies were initially hard to get because Walker Harding lives in Australia. He had self-produced this. Copies did not enter distribution. You would have to send him money and he would send you a copy of the game, something he had done with other game designs in the past. But Sushi Go took off like no other title of his has, with Gamewright licensing an English language version for North America in 2014. Zoc did the same thing in Europe, same year, 2014. There's been additional versions in Italian and Portuguese and Russian and Chinese and all these other languages. And then it had a spin-off game, Sushi Go Party, in 2016. And now, 2019, we see the release of Sushi Roll, a Sushi Go dice game, as this hopefully tells you up at the top. Released by Gamewright, this is a design for 2 to 5 players that very much mimics the gameplay of Sushi Go, with a couple of twists because, of course, you have dice instead of cards, and those differences matter when you're playing the game. Here are the components for Sushi Roll. Each player gets a tray and menu that you place in front of you. You get one of the sections of the conveyor belt with the red border belt being included, and however many you need to match the number of players. You have point tokens that are used for scoring at the end of each of the 3 rounds, pudding tokens that players collect for scoring at the end of the game, along with re-roll tokens, with each player getting 3 of those, and 2 of the chopstick swap tokens. So you collect those, but the heart of the game is the dice, with dice coming in 5 colors and all 6 sides of each die being shown on the menu that each player has in front of them. So you can easily see the probabilities of rolling each item on each die. The appeal of Sushi Go for a lot of people is its simplicity. It's easy to start playing, go through the entire game, finish 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you're done. Sushi Go uses a card drafting mechanism similar to Seven Wonders, which was released 2 years prior to Sushi Go. But Seven Wonders has a lot of setup time where you have to adjust the deck based on the player count. You lay out wonders, you give tokens. There's all this little fiddly stuff at the beginning before you get into the game. And Seven Wonders is a fantastic design, but it is not ideal for a casual audience because you can easily just implode in that game through terrible choices at the beginning. Whereas Sushi Go, usually you'll get something. It's a lot easier to get into and to score, and Sushi Roll duplicates that simplicity of play. At the beginning of a round of Sushi Roll, each player draws dice from the bag equal to 10 minus the number of players. So 6 dice in a 4-player game. Roll those dice and then put them on your conveyor belt. You each in turn draft one of those dice and place it on your individual tray, starting with the player with the red bordered conveyor belt. If you choose a nigiri, which is the white dice, then you get 1, 2, or 3 points based on whatever face is showing, and that's it. 1, 2, or 3 points. Okay, that's something. If you take a purple die, well, you've got tempura and dumplings and sashimi. Those score points based on how many you collect. So 1 tempura on its own is only worth 1 point, but if I get 2 of them, it's 5. 3 points, 3 of them is 10. And then I start counting again if I get a 4th one. So let's say I take the tempura. Maybe this guy takes the sushi, which is worth 3 points. This person over here has lots of maki, which are the red dice. And at the end of the round, whoever has the most maki symbols in their tray scores 6 points. Whoever has the second most scores 3 points, and ties are friendly. Got lots of purple dice, but also lots of maki, and maybe wants to go for the lead right away. With the green dice, those are a little odd because they have different symbols on them. If you take this one, it has 2 menus, you get 2 more reroll tokens. If you take one with 1 or 2 chopsticks, you take the chopstick tokens, which I'll explain in a moment. Or the wasabi. If you take that, well, the next time you get a nigiri die, you place that nigiri on top of the wasabi, and you score 3 times as many points. So 3, 6, or 9 points instead of only 1, 2, or 3. So after each player has drafted a die, the conveyor belts move. So all the dice rotate to the new players, and everyone has to roll the dice that they have just received, which when you're one person simulating 4 people is a little tedious, but when you're playing just with 1 player, not a problem at all. Or with 1 tray, that is. And now, new player has the red die. They decide what they want to get. I can get 3 points for this. Sure, looks good. This player, no Maki available, maybe wants menus, could start collecting something, or go for puddings. There are 1, 2, or 3 puddings depicted on a die, and when you take something like this, you immediately take a token representing that number of puddings, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most puddings scores 6 points, and whoever has the fewest loses 6 points. Not so good. Next player, you can compete for Maki, get something else. Let's go with the purple ones. This one here, I get a tempura. Let's say I did not have the tempura. I had only a dumpling. I could spend a reroll token to reroll as many of the dice here as I want, and hopefully I get what I want. Or I could spend a chopsticks token. Maybe I'll do that instead. So I will throw that out. I will take a die from someone else, and then I give them a die of my choice. So we still have the same number of dice on each of the trays. We now pass the dice again. New player chooses something. It gets back to me. I would have rolled these. Hey, and now I can get my set. You continue drafting dice until all the conveyor belts are empty, and then you score points based on the nigiri and the maki and the sets that you have in front of you. Then you put all the dice back in the bag, and you play 2 more complete rounds. And at the end of 3 rounds, you score the puddings, and you see who's won. I played Sushi Roll 4 times on a review copy from GameRight with 2, 3, and 4 players. The 2-player experience is very different because, of course, it's just me and you. And that's it. We have 8 dice available, and we're passing those back and forth. So you see all the things that are available, and you get a much better sense at the beginning of the round as to how the round is going to play out. Your first couple of choices kind of determine what you're fighting for, what you're trying to get, and then you're bouncing off each other for the remainder of the round. And I've noticed in 2 games with 2 players that the choices at the end of the round often don't seem important, or they're sort of obvious, and they're less interesting than in the game with more players. I had one game with 2 players where the first round we had 1 pudding die. I took it. And the second round, only 1, and I took it. And so I had more than 3 puddings, so that when in the third round there was only 1 pudding die among the 2 players, I already knew that I'd won. And that was a dead die for the rest of the round. So it was less tense because everything is sort of more visible in front of you, and you can see more what's happening. If someone takes 2 Maki dice early in a 2-player game, okay, fine. They're going to win Maki. I don't care. I'm only going to take 1 Maki, and then I'm going to focus on everything else. I'll at least get 3 points for coming in second, and hopefully I can do other things with the other dice that I'm taking. Maybe it's a bad choice for the other player to take 2 Maki dice first, or I don't know, they lock in the majority, just as I did with the pudding. But it felt like there was less play, fewer interesting choices in the 2-player game because of what was available to us. With 3 players and 4 players, you're paying much more attention to which dice are in which locations and what you think might be there when those conveyor belts actually get around to you. If there's lots of purple dice on if I have a purple die and there's lots of purple dice for the 2 players next to me, well, then maybe I should go for the sets because there's more odds of me getting them. Whereas if they're mostly in the player to my left, especially in the 4-player game, I'm probably not going to see those by the time that gets around to me. So I want to collect something else. There's more competition for puddings and Maki because there are just more dice in play. With 4 players, you have 24 dice in play. With 3 players, you have 21. With 2, you have only 16. And with 5, you're going to have 25. So about the same as 4. So there's more dice in play and there's more choices available. It's not as obvious what people are going to do. And there's more competition shooting for the pudding at the end of the game or the Maki or who's going to get the set. And is someone else competing for a set and going to take the purple die away from you. Even if they're not collecting the same thing, if they take that die out of the pool, then you can't steal it with chopsticks or roll it or just get it and hope that the face comes up the way you want it. So there's more competition with 3 or more players, and it's more interesting even though you make fewer choices, but those choices become more precious. So you want to see them. So the only real difference, the thing I can see people talking about, is you have the Sushi Roll box. If you open that up, Let me take out the rolls. Everything fits in this space, and really it could fit in about a quarter of that space. So if you wanted to, you could possibly fit everything in the bag, and then you just have these separate menu cards, and you can carry that around with you. And these almost fit as well, although you can't quite close it. So if there were a larger bag, you could fit everything in the bag and take that around, making it as portable as Sushi Go, rather than having the big box. But you can always cut down a box, right? Maybe we'll make that happen. To pack up Sushi Roll and take it on the road.